Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a high-end versus drugstore makeup look. So obviously you do half your face drugstore makeup and half your face high-end makeup. I do have a couple of things missing from the high-end section, so I'm just not going to do those parts. One of them is concealer. I did have a high-end concealer, but I think it ran out, or I've lost it, I can't remember. But either way, the foundations that I'm using are quite good coverage, so I don't think I'll need them anyway. And then the other one is powder, and I don't tend to use powder really anyway, so that doesn't really matter. But anyway, I'm just going to get straight into the video. So for drugstore foundation, I'm going to use this one. In fact, I'll show you them both at the same time. So I'm going to use the Bourjois Air Matte foundation, and I'm going to use my MAC Studio Fix foundation in I think this is NC20, and this is in vanilla. These I'm trying to get, obviously you get things the closest to the colour. These are both quite yellow toned foundations, so I'm hoping that they're going to match. So I'm just going to put a little bit of them on the back of my hand. So I'm going to do I don't know whether to use my beauty blender or a brush. I'm going to start off with the drugstore side, and I'm going to do this as my drugstore side. So here goes. Okay, so that is the coverage on one side. Now I'm going to do the MAC foundation on the other. The only thing about this foundation is it doesn't have a pump. You can buy them, like I know that you can buy them, so I am going to invest in one. But I just haven't got around to it yet. Okay. And that is why, because you end up spilling loads and wasting it. Okay, so overall I think that the colour is exactly the same. Like I really can't tell the difference colour wise. If you can, let me know, but I personally can't. Then also the coverage is pretty much the same. I would say that the coverage is just as good as each other. However, I would say that the MAC one is just a tiny bit better coverage. I don't know if you noticed, but well, obviously you've noticed. I had quite a few blemishes around here, and it has pretty much covered them up. And I know that if I had put the Bourjois one on that side, it wouldn't have covered them just as well, you know, just from obviously experience of using it. I know that it wouldn't have covered that so well. So overall on the foundations, they are pretty much the same. I'm going to leave prices down below. I'll try and put them on the screen, but I'm not very good at all that technical stuff, so but I will try and put them on the screen. If not, they'll be in the description box down below. Now I'm going to move on to eyebrows, and I'm going to use my MAC palette, and I'm going to use, it's really frustrating me every time I use this. Obviously this gap is missing and I really need to buy one and cover it because it's driving me crazy. But I'm going to use this one, which is charcoal brown. I forgot to say, I'm not like focusing on like high-end brushes or low-end brushes. I'm just using the brushes that I use normally. Moving on to what I'm going to use for my eyebrows on the drugstore side. I'm going to use this, which is the MUA Pro Brow Kit. As you can tell, for a long time I love this. This is actually really good if you're looking for, you know, a brow kit to start off with because you're a bit nervous about starting off doing your brows and stuff. I would really recommend using this because it's actually really good. I'm just going to mix the lightest shade, so this shade and this shade together. Okay, so overall for eyebrows, I do prefer the MAC one just because I just think it's a lot more pigmented, and I just prefer the shade, like the colour matches my hair a lot better and everything, so I do prefer this one. This one is still really good, like it is really quite pigmented. The lightest shade, the one, because I was mixing two together, the lightest shade really is not pigmented at all. Like, I put a bit on the back of my hand and you just can't see it, and it's not because it's so pale, it's just because it's not pigmented. However, the darker one is, which is why I mix them a little bit. It is really pigmented, although you do have to get quite a lot on your brush to be able to get it onto your eyebrow. And this is a lot more like reddy aubany toned, I would say. I don't know if you can see, but this one's a lot more like blondie browny colour, and this one's a lot more aubany toned. I can definitely tell a difference when I look in the mirror. They look completely different. Moving on to, I don't know, let's move on to bronzer. For Drugstore, I'm going to use my Bourjois bronzer. Moving on to high-end bronzer, I'm going to use the Balm Desert. This actually is not like the Bourjois one, like colour toned. This is a lot more brown toned. It's just that I couldn't find I do have a Drugstore one that's a lot like this, but I just can't find it. I don't know where it is. So I'm going to have to just use this. Okay, colour wise you can tell that this one is a lot more pigmented than this one, although personally, I mean, I put too much on my brush, that is what the problem was, but I love both just as much, although this one's a lot more subtle and this one's a lot more intense. I would use this more in like summer, and I use this a lot more in winter to try and make it look like I have a bit of a tan in winter. But yeah, this one's a lot more pigmented than this one. This one, the Bourjois one, I really did have to like swirl my brush around in it for a long time to get the product onto the brush. So I would definitely say that the Balm one was a lot more pigmented. Moving on to blush, again I had the problem where my blushes, like I didn't have ones that were close, that matched. So I'm going to use these two, which sort of similar, sort of not. I'm going to use, I'm sorry, I know the whole point of this is like trying to find dupes of expensive ones. I am trying to get them as close as possible to each other, but it's hard sometimes. But I'm going to use these two. When they're on, they look very similar. So I'm going to use this one, which is the Bourjois one in Rose d'Or, and put this on the apples of my cheeks. Now I'm going to use the Bobbi Brown one in Pale Pink. See, I don't know if you can tell, but they are very similar in colour when you put them on. So that is the blush done. That's basically the skin done. All that's left now is eyes. Like I said, the blushes look very similar when they're on. Like I would go out like this, like one on each side, because it looks fine. The pigmentation is exactly the same. Sorry, I'm just looking in my mirror to try and compare. The pigmentation was pretty much the same. The Bobbi Brown one was slightly more pigmented, but they were pretty much the same. Moving on to eyes, I'm going to start off by putting, I've got Eyes Uncovered by Collection Nude Bronze Palette. I'm going to start off by using this shade here, all over my lid. And then for high end, I'm going to use this, which is in my MAC palette, but it's not actually a MAC, it's a Benefit one, and I can't remember for the life of me what it's called. It's either called Thanks a Latte or Bikini Teeny. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one, but it is definitely one of those. The pigmentation in both of those is very similar. The colour, I don't know if you can see, the colour is very similar, and like I said, the pigmentation in both of them is pretty much the same. Moving on to a colour to go in my crease, I'm going to use, let's just double check, I'm going to use this one. Sorry, the colour that I used on there was Mink. I'm going to use this end colour, which is Nutty, this one, which is from the same palette. And I'm going to put this just a little bit through my crease. Okay, that is one eye done. For the, oh no, look what I just did. I just dinted that with the end of my brush. For the high end, to go in my crease, I'm going to use this colour from the Naked 3 palette, which is Dark Side. Again, these are very, very similar. Okay, these are very similar colours. The pigmentation is very similar. Similar. Both of them are really, really easy. I don't know if you can see, I hope you can. Both of them are very, very easy to apply. And yeah, the pigmentation is really good. Okay, moving on to highlight. We've only got highlight and lips left. So I'm going to do highlight now. I am going to use the Balm's Mary Luminizer highlighter for Highend. And I actually really struggled to find something that was similar to this highlighter, but I've got this by Collection. It's called Gorgeous Glow, and this shade here is very, very similar, so I'm going to try and just get that shade. Okay, the highlighters, the Mary Luminizer highlighter is definitely a lot more pigmented, definitely a lot prettier. The glow to it is so much more gorgeous. This one is very pretty, it's not, I just realised I ain't done mascara. I said I only had highlight and lips left, I ain't even done mascara. Anyway, moving on. This is gorgeous. It's very, very good highlighter if you want to start it off as, you know, like beginner. It is a very good highlighter to start off with. It is very pretty, but I just personally prefer the Mary Luminizer. It's just so much more pigmented and pretty. For mascara, I wanted to find one that had similar wands and similar consistency. So I'm going to use this, which is the Maybelline New York, the Falsies Push Up Drama Mascara, and Benefit Roller Lash. And I'm just going to put that on my eyelashes. I'm going to start off with the Maybelline one. Okay, for mascara, I did have a little bit of an issue, which is why this eye is a tiny bit darker underneath. I nearly sneezed, so mascara went everywhere. But I wanted to talk about mascara. So the roller, what am I trying to say? The roller lash one gives a lot. I want to give you my honest opinions. Let me look. The roller lash one gives a lot more length and separation, whereas the Maybelline one gives a lot more volume. I love them both just as much, but personally I look for length and separation in mine, so I'm going to say that I prefer the roller lash one. Now onto lips. I really did try to get these as similar as each other, so I'm going to use my MAC one, which is Velvet Teddy, and this one, which is Kate Moss 03. Okay, so as you can see, Velvet Teddy is obviously a tiny bit darker, which is this one. But if I was to blend them together, like just a little bit where the line is, they would match perfectly. Yeah, I prefer, I don't know, I can't decide which one I prefer because the consistency of them both is gorgeous, the pigmentation is gorgeous. If I was to, like if I couldn't have MAC lipsticks, what am I trying to say? Kate Moss lipsticks are just really good. They're really pigmented, they stay a really long time, but so do the MAC ones, which is why I'm finding it so hard to decide which one I prefer. The Velvet Teddy, I know that Velvet Teddy is a matte lipstick, so obviously it dries matte, and I'm not as big a fan on matte lipsticks, whereas this Kate Moss one is not matte, and I prefer ones that aren't matte, so I don't know. I can't make a decision. I love those two, both. I love both of those just as much, so I can't really decide which one, but they are both gorgeous. Anyway, I'll leave the prices down below so you can decide, but both of them are just as good as each other. So if you're wanting Velvet Teddy but can't afford it, definitely go for this because it is just as good, and the pigmentation is just as good. The lasting, like how long they last, is pretty much the same as well. So there you go. At the end of this video, if you enjoyed it, please let me know. Leave a comment down below and give this video a like. Also subscribe to my channel if you would like to, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!